Oh, man.
So Sharps and I were playing with this. It's just like being on Star Trek now. We were beaming in and out of breakout rooms, and I had 3 devices going, and he had 4 devices going, and we were looking at each other at every angle just to pull this all together tonight. So we wanted to do this upright.
Nice.
All right. Few guys still just jumping in the meeting, but that's all right. They'll join in. They'll get caught up. So what we'll do, Rick, if you want to do the intro, Rick's got the radio voice and the GQ face. So since he's got it all, he's going to do the full intro. So go ahead, Rick.
That's interesting. I want to know whatever filter Paul Charbonneau has on the computer. I need to take that everywhere I go. So, yeah, welcome back, everybody. It's Wednesday night again, and Paul Charbonneau has reached into his cell phone and pulled out quite a few really big names for us tonight. We're going to have a quarterback Q&A, and with us tonight we've got multiple Grey Cup winners and multiple Hall of Famers. Anthony Calvillo, former Montreal Alouette quarterback and current offensive head coach with the Montreal Caravan. Danny McManus, the current assistant general manager with our 2019 Grey Cup champion Winnipeg Blue Bombers. We've got Dave Dickinson joining us, I think, from maybe Calgary, and he's the head coach of the Calgary Stampeders. And last but not least, our birthday boy who just turned the big 5-0 on Sunday. Happy birthday, Coach Jones, Kahari Jones of the Montreal Alouettes. So without much more introductions, we'll get going. We're going to kind of run a Q&A here. So if somebody wants to start us off with the first question, we can use the chat as well. And anybody watching on YouTube can also put a comment in there, a question, and Paul can check that and start. How's everybody doing tonight?
Right. Awesome. Very good.
Yeah. Great.
So the biggest thing that for a lot of us, like for myself, if I was to be an offensive coordinator, I would have no QB experience. So if I was to be an OC and I had to talk to a quarterback, what would be the best piece of advice you guys would have had while you were playing that you right now you would apply when talking to a quarterback? Any one of you jump in.
Well, you other 3 are coaches, so yeah. You other 3 guys are coaches. What do you say?
I'll defer to the birthday boy over there.
Go ahead, of course you will. Of course. Oh my goodness. One of the things, like, it's funny. I had I play 11 years professionally, and I had 12 different offensive coordinators during that time. And most of them had quarterback experience, but not all of them. And I don't think I think it helps definitely to when you're talking to a quarterback to let them know that you've been in the same place and they've kind of had the same feel as what you're going through. But I don't think it's necessarily something that you need. But the guys that I kind of gravitated to that didn't have quarterback experience, they just had a big knowledge base. They just knew the game inside and out, and they had something that could benefit me. And it's not like one of the things I didn't like is that if they kind of acted like they did, you don't need to act like you do. If you don't have quarterback experience, it's fine. But give me something else that I need, or that can help me to be the best quarterback that I can be. And so that's kind of, yeah, if you have a big knowledge base, if you know the game inside and out, it makes it a little tougher, but it's still able to do it. And those are the guys that I really responded to.
Excellent. Any of you other guys have something they want to say on that?
Danny throws it at us. I personally feel the first thing you tell them is it's not going to be easy. I get frustrated with people that say, coaches that are like, come on, man, that's easy. You got to do this, you got to do that. Trust me, when the bullets are flying at you, it's not easy. And then the next thing I would try to do is try to figure out what my guy is good at. And I would try to form fit maybe what we do around what he's good at rather than what I love. So that was one of the first things I learned coaching was, and I had Henry the first couple of years. To me, something that I saw clearly and that I could do easily didn't fit his eye, didn't fit his way of looking at things. The flip side, there's a lot of things Henry could do that I could not do. So, you know, instead of calling the game to what I liked and what I thought would fit my game, I had to make sure I called games to see what he could do. And I had to learn right away what his strengths and his weaknesses were, and then try to form fit the game plan to that. But when you get a young quarterback, the first thing is get a relationship with them and get them to trust you and get them to understand it's not easy. I got your back. I'm going to be here with you. We're going to make this work together, but get that relationship going. And then you can learn if you need to coach them tough or coach them in certain ways and start getting into the X's, O's and that sort of stuff as it goes on.
Yep. I mean, I agree with Dave. I mean, I'm looking on the screen now. One of my offensive coordinators is on here that I got a chance to work with, Coach Barisi. And I think it's just the communication.
Mm-hmm.
That's the important part that you heard both the Dave and Kahari talk about is communicating with your quarterback, put him in position to where he can succeed. You don't have to be a quarterback to be an OC. I mean, if you're not a quarterback or having a quarterback background, it might be to have your quarterback coach, you know, get somebody else that might have been in that position that understands when live bullets are going. There's a lot of stuff coming at you. I mean, it's 100 miles an hour, and you see what you see and you throw it. If your quarterback starts to be a little hesitant and holding on to the football, he's always going to be afraid to let it go. And so I think the biggest thing is just the communication that you have with your quarterback, knowing that, as Dave said, I got your back. Ron Lancaster gave me a perfect example of that. He told me, don't worry about throwing interceptions. He goes, one game I threw it 3 times to the same cornerback before I switched the side of the field. So it's one of those things that it's when you have that kind of belief factor in your quarterback, he's going to make mistakes, but you're hoping that the other 85% of the time that he's doing great things for you to move the football down the field and get points on the board for you.
It's funny, Danny, you mentioned the interceptions because, you know, I had a few coaches over the years, like we all have, and Don Matthews said the same thing for me. It's like, AC, you could throw as many interceptions as you want. I'm never going to take you out. Well, there was one game in Toronto where I threw 5 interceptions and he took me out. But I think everybody's had some good points. I think the communication, the relationship that you build with the quarterbacks is the foundation of your football team. There has to be a great relationship there. And you don't have to be a past quarterback to be an offensive coordinator. I think that's very important to understand. But you got to know the knowledge of the game because, you know, the quarterbacks are smart. They're going to understand whether you're going to bullshit them or not. And I think that the one thing that really stands out, what Dave talked about, was, you know, finding the strengths and weaknesses of the quarterback that you have. Because I think that was my challenge is, you know, I remember I liked a certain concept and it was my go-to play, but, you know, I saw it a certain way and this quarterback may not see it that way. So you got to find the concepts that they're comfortable with and kind of be open-minded. When I played early on in my career, when I was a young player, the coaches were pretty firm. You're going to do it this way. This is the way we want you to do it. And as I matured more, especially with Don Matthews and other coordinators that I had, or he was the head coach, but he gave us a little bit more flexibility, where, with Mark Trestman, it was like, this is our footwork. This was how we're going to do things. And we had success both ways. So I know the biggest thing for myself, once I get that relationship with that quarterback and they start to understand our offense, then I'm going to become a little bit more open-minded to their input, because what they see in the field is quite different what we might have saw in the field back in the day. So it comes back to trusting what their vision is, and just finding their strengths and weaknesses and going from there.
Excellent. All right, Dom, you had a question?
Yes, sir. All right, guys. First of all, thank you very much, guys, to be on there all there tonight. I appreciate that myself, as well as many coaches. It's great to see you guys. I want to know, guys, what you guys think, because regarding the footwork. So basically, the footwork on a drop back, it's based on the timing of the route. Like you see when you won Montreal, Mark, like the West Coast is big on the timing. If you look at the run and shoot now, with Mazzoli back in Hamilton, he was drifting while he was backpedaling. Coach Dickinson, you got him at times. I've been watching film, like he's not truly backpedaling, but like when he's looking to the left side, he's gonna be straight back, like he's gonna backpedal straight up instead of going like a normal 3 hitch or whatever it is. You guys experienced that in the past as a former players. Like back in '96, I was watching like Doug Flutie. He would straight back pedal. Like I'm trying to get like the best drops for our guys to fit in our system with their ability to do it. So I want to know what you guys think regarding like the back pedal, footwork, as well as the normal and conventional 3 hitch, three quit, whatever it is on the drop back. Not a quick game, I mean, but really on the drop back footwork, if that makes sense, guys.
Yeah.
Who wants to start that one?
Well, I could just add my experience with it, and how I kind of adjusted to what I do now. When I first started up in the CFL, I mean, we were under center. We were under center a whole lot, taking a 3-step drop, 5-step drop. So it was like that was the norm. You were hardly in shotgun. And then I remember Don Matthews came in and we were running the same offense that Doug Flutie and them ran, and we were in the shotgun backpedaling the whole way. So I was like, how am I going to adjust to this? How am I going to get used to this? And over time with reps and seeing things, that footwork fit that particular system. And then finally in 2007, I think when Marcel Belfoy took over as offensive coordinator, and with Scott Milanovich, my quarterback coach, they asked me if I could change my drop instead of backpedaling, taking a natural 3-step drop out of the gun. And I remember, I think the first game we played at home was against Saskatchewan. I think I threw 3 interceptions, and we won the game. It was very close. And I remember Scott saying, "Hey, AC, if you want to go back to backpedaling, we're open for that idea." And I said, "No, I'm going to give it a chance. I don't think it had anything to do with my footwork. I think it was just more my reads." So just for me personally, I think it's just evolved over the years in terms of the comfort level, because with Don Matthews' offense, we threw for 10 yards, and I was taking 5 hitches back there sometimes, right? And putting a lot of pressure on the offensive line. And then when Mark came, it was like, no, we're going to protect the quarterback and the ball has to be out of our hands, right? So I'm more in that realm now, making sure that we're taking our normal, we're not backpedaling out, we're taking a 3-step drop with a hitch, or we're going to rock and throw to either side, depending if it's a quick concept or a 3-step concept. But we do also take 5 steps out of the gun as well. But, we kind of stress to our quarterbacks we can't be deeper than 9.5 yards because we don't want to put pressure on our tackles whatsoever. So I know there's been an evolution with that. So for me, I think it's just your personal comfort level of the system that you're in. But it's worked both ways. But right now, I know I'm a little bit more comfortable asking the quarterback just to take a normal 3-step drop from the gun versus backpedaling right now.
Yeah, for me, I'm really similar in that. My big thing with the drop back is um, it's all about repeatable actions. I just want the quarterback, whoever it is, to be able to repeat what they're doing. Now we teach a certain thing. We teach very similar with the rock and throw and quick three and three and a hitch and a quick five. But I found over the years, as I've gone along, that kind of like Dave said, I kind of go with what my quarterback is comfortable with. I go with what he does well. And if I see that he's doing something naturally, like take for instance Vernon, there are times when naturally he'll just get into a back pedal and he gets a little loose back there. But once I saw it and I saw the success that he was having with backpedaling, it would be silly of me to change that. So now we work on that. And now that's something that we work on in practice is him going back. But again, most of the time when he was backpedaling, he was throwing to his left. Now I want him to be able to backpedal and throw to his right and do it both ways. So I have a set of drops that we practice and go through, but I want to make sure that the quarterbacks can repeat it over and over. I think that's where you get your consistency from that position. And I'm always, I'm talking to him too about, the reason that we're dropping back is to get room to throw the ball and to throw it on time so I don't want to. I've seen so many people succeed at so many different ways of dropping back, and some people hardly drop back at all and just stay where they are and make it work. But I think the biggest factor in that is that they're able to repeat it over and over again, and they're pretty much doing the same thing when they get back there, so they can make it work.
Yeah, I agree with both you guys on that. I think it's whatever fits for your guy, Dom. With me, I was big on timing with my feet. It was 1, 2, 3, get it out. Even if I was in shotgun, it was 1, 2, 3. Backpedaling, I was always worried about not being able to transfer my weight into throwing the football. And you want your feet to be at the right position when you're throwing the ball, because that's going to make you more accurate as a thrower. If you're drifting back or you're kind of falling back or falling to the sidelines, left or right, the ball is going to go that way. So I always want to make sure my feet were underneath me, and then my toe was pointing to the target and letting it rip. So however your quarterback is, if he's going to turn and do the regular drop back or back pedal, I think what Kahari and Anthony are saying is whatever he's able to get so he's an accurate thrower. Can he get his feet right so that he's an accurate thrower and he knows where he's going with the football? I think that's going to be the biggest part, is can he do that and still be accurate and be productive for you?
Yeah, I'm not a big believer in the back pedal, even though Danny Mack did a damn good job, Flutie and those guys. Don't forget though, you're talking to professional quarterbacks here. I mean, I don't know, Dom, you're coaching college or younger kids. I know Jeff Steed's on here. I think the first thing you do is you teach them the fundamentals, and fundamentally, to me, it's not a back pedal. That's when you're kind of playing a little looser. That's when you feel a little more comfortable that you're trying to move people with your shoulder profile. You're trying to, use your vision to change up how defenses are looking at you. I think the first thing you should do is do the drop the way we've all been taught. And then if you're having trouble, like you said, your feet, let's say you have a closed toe and you can't clear your left shoulder and you're throwing left, and you want to say, okay, we're not accurate, as Danny said. Let's try to open up that hip a little bit more. But for the most part, guys, it's just like anything else. There is a reason why we're all taught that. I think it's the easiest way for the most people. Doesn't mean we're all the same. Doesn't mean we're all going to do it the same. But it's still, I think that's the best way to start. And then the flip side on like AC said to me, the feet always match your throw. But guess what? You're picking out which side of the field you're in, what routes you're throwing. Like I'm deciding what I'm throwing based on blitz, contour, shells, all sorts of things. So on some plays, I might take a quick 3 and it's out, but other plays I might take a 5, and then I'm trying to work it. Like if it's 2nd and 13, I'm not taking a quick 3. I'm going to go back farther because I got a weak arm. So I'm going to move up or move around and then work what I did best, was try to fool the defense, was try to move them one way and throw it the other way. But start, I'd say, Dom, start with the regular fundamentals of keeping your shoulder tucked in, keeping your profile what it needs to be. There's not too many guys like Doug Flutie that can back up and just throw it. I mean, and the weaker the arm, which is the younger the players, the more you have to focus on your fundamentals and your profile. And, you know, some guys have strong ass arms that can get it done. But for the most part, when I watch my guy, Bo Levi, who's got an amazing arm, and he's not throwing accurately, it's not his arm, it's his feet, and it's his drop.
Always.
So that's why we want to keep that tight.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
We'll come back to you as well. I know you've got a couple other follow-up questions later on, but we got Warren Goldie on the call as well. He messaged. He's got some weaker signals, but he's the new head coach of the Quinte Skyhawks in the CJFL, and he wanted to know, during your college years, can you explain the time commitment that was expected of you, sort of development, meeting times, and stuff like that?
Go ahead, Florida State. Let's hear it.
It was, well, I get a day. Yeah, a day at Florida State was you had to wake up for breakfast. That's between 7:30 had to show up, get checked off. If you didn't, you run the stadium steps at night, so you had to do that. You had weight room from 8 to 9, class from 10 till 1. You're in quarterback meetings at 1 o'clock till 2:30, and then it's team meetings till 3:30 on the field till 6. Back to quarterback. You're gonna back to quarterbacks to watch the quick, either it's Skelly or team till 6:30, 6:45. You're eating. Then you're back into, if you're a freshman, you're in study hall that night till probably 8:30 or 9, and then my GA, who was Coach Mark Rick, would call a 9:30 meeting to go over the next day's practice. So usually getting home about 10:30, 11. So, and you're doing that. That was Monday. Tuesday, you're doing that again. Wednesday, you're doing that again. Thursday's your only cut down day. Friday, you travel. Saturday, you play. Saturday, you're doing everything back up from noon till about 10 o'clock. When you're reviewing the game film all the way and getting ready for the next week. So that's just how that's the way the week was. School was in there somewhere to study. You had to make the time for it, whether it was on the bus ride around the campus or what, but you had to make sure that you studied and got your grades up, because if you didn't do well with your grades, you were running stadium steps then too.
You just said that like you just did that last year, by the way.
Hey, I was there for 5 years. You're there for 5. You know how to know the system.
It's ingrained.
That was impressive. I can't recall my day-to-day activities at the university level when I played, but I could just share you what I go through now that I'm coaching at the university. And I was quite surprised in terms of the time that the players have to get ready, because we don't see them till 5 o'clock in the evening, right? Because they're in school the whole entire time, and then they come, and it's like the CFL. You got like 3.5 hours. You got to get everything in, because you know you gotta meet with. You have a team meeting, then you have a special teams meeting, then you got to install, then you have a walkthrough, then you're on the field, and then, you know, you're getting off the field at like 10 o'clock at night. And then you're back in the office early the next day. So I was really surprised to see, because, you know, I just expect that we were going to have more time with these young men, because it was the exact same thing. They would come in around 4:30. We would be with them, and it would be so fast. Like our time was so precious, because we got to get on to the next thing. The guys got to get taped and so forth like that. So, you know, it was hard for me to have the expectations of how much film these guys were going to watch, right? Because, you know, we're always talking about where's the free safety, what's the contour of the defense. Okay, what does the contour mean, guys? Well, we're trying to get, you know, a preview and trying to get the answers to the test based off of our film work. And it was very challenging to have a lot of the guys watch a lot of film just because there wasn't a lot of time for them. So, for myself, I want to make sure that we're spending more time with the quarterback. So I ask them to come in earlier when they can, and sometimes they can't because they have a class. So I'm meeting with them either the next day early, just so they could understand what we're facing that week. And I think that was the biggest challenge for myself, is as much as we're trying to explain to them, okay, guys, this is whole coverage, this is coverage zero. It seemed at times when I first started, I was talking to myself because they would just get surprised. So I really had to slow things down for myself going into this level and just understanding, okay, they're not going to have all the time in the world to watch film. So, we don't need all these concepts that we had up in the CFL. So to me, that was an adjustment in terms of how much time these kids had to get ready week in and week out. And that was a learning experience for myself in my first year. But now that I know how it works, I've adjusted in terms of what I expect from the young men and not to put too much on their plate. So it's quite different, but I'm enjoying it. But I wish I could go back and reflect on what I did back at Utah State, but that was too long ago. So kudos to you, Danny Mac, for remembering all that.
Yeah.
I'd be with AC. I'm just going to say, I don't know, our generation, we don't do what the kids do now. I mean, I remember one time in a game, the coach was like, it's just like the Northridge film. And I was like, I didn't watch that film. I mean, I'm out here playing. I'll figure it out in the first couple series anyway. So, it's funny you say all that stuff. The kids want to do it and they'll do whatever you ask them. But I think it's our job as coaches to make sure we really get the bullet points. Make sure you're showing them what you need to show them, because you're not going to be always right. But make sure you have what they need to watch instead of just bombarding them with hours upon hours of stuff. Give them the cliff notes, And if they're a really good player, you can communicate and talk on the sideline, you can handle the adjustments. Don't forget, you're probably running your own stuff. You guys, we play teams over and over and over. So it's like, you got to keep changing your offense. You can't just run the same stuff. But most of the time in college, you're only playing that team once. So you're going to be running what you do and you're going to put your wrinkles in there, but you're really trying to teach them the other team. Whereas I think Kahari and I would both agree, half the time we're teaching a new offense to the team every single week. So that's why we need more time and we need more details. So, but as far as the kids, like you said, I think there should be a good balance. Let them be college students. I'm a big believer in that. I think, and let them enjoy it. And sometimes guys, a little, what's it called? A little paralysis by overanalysis. You get so much on their plate. They're robots. Let them play. Danny Mac was the best at that, in my opinion. I remember one time you had 4 picks at half and you didn't care. You just kept throwing and you threw 5 touchdowns in the second half. You didn't care, man. And find ways to communicate. And then it's just a game. Just figure it out and make sure that they have a good balance in life.
Mhm.
I agree. I just know that Florida State and UC Davis were very, very different. We had no schedule really. We got in there, we got our meetings done, and they mowed the lawn right before we played, right before we got out on the practice field, and we do our thing and figure it out. So I think Blamey and Dave's experiences was probably pretty similar in college, but I agree. And I just to go to the robot thing and stuff, that's let the guys play. And I'm a true believer in that, and see what they know. And that's the thing that I really press on coaches to find out what the guys know. I think we've gotten in such I want to control everything, and I want to control all aspects of what they're doing out on the field and how they're seeing it. But you might get some good things when you just when you see what your quarterback is seeing and how he sees the game, and it hopefully you're able to adjust and say, okay, I see how you see this, and let's go with that, because you can run the same play. And I have plays that I've run for years. And because of who the quarterback is, because of how they see it, the read changes. And these things aren't set in stone. We don't have to go from, A to B to C all the time. But if they see it a different way and it's working and it makes sense, then be okay with doing that. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Warren just texted me from where he's listening in, and he wanted to thank you for those great answers. Sharbs?
Perfect. Well, Benoit Drouin, Coach, if you want to unmute yourself, you got the next question.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me. This is already some great stuff. My question for the panel is as follows. How do you identify, develop, and nurture leadership in your quarterbacks? I realize we could talk about this all night, but I'd appreciate the short notes, if you would.
I think I'm up first this time. So I just think you gotta be careful undermining them. I think you want to give them your message, and I think you have to make sure they believe it and that they're on board with you. And then I do think you got to be careful how you treat your quarterback. I've read books about Belichick having clips of Tom Brady and making basically calling him out in meetings, saying that's bullshit. And I think this is after like 5 Super Bowls though, so maybe he could get away with it, but I would not do that. I think it's important they understand, like quarterback wise, that what you're trying to tell the team, what we're all about, what do we represent, your actions should speak louder than your words. But then the flip side of that is once you give him that template that you believe is what you're trying to communicate and what you want as a team, now you got to support him. And there will always be little hiccups, like certain guys are better in post-game scrums than others. And some guys lose their tempers, and, you guys can do it however you feel it. But I do feel like you've got to then, if you're given the leadership role to a certain group of players, which your quarterback usually is one of them, be very careful of undermining them. It doesn't mean you can't coach them. Certainly, I think you have to coach people, but I don't think you want to, I always say it's between us girls, meaning like if you start doing all these rumors type of things with your leadership council and so-and-so doesn't work very hard, he's not in the weight room, then you've just lost the group. So you might as well just, go home to your wife and bitch, because that's what I do. But you better not let the team think that you've lost your guy. And if you think you've lost your guy, go to the next guy. Because once you have, in my opinion, sowed the seeds of doubt to the team that this isn't your guy, you got major problems. So leadership-wise, culture, all that stuff, it is a little bit more, I think it's kind of the flavor of the year. I think everyone's talking about it, but I think there's tons of ways to get there. But I think first off, just be yourself, be genuine, find out what's important to you, get the people on your leadership on board with those topics and how you want them passed down to the team. And then just like we said at the beginning, then you got to ride your guy. You got to make sure you support him. You can give him little tidbits. You can give, hey, didn't really love the way you talked there. Let's try to clean that up, and let's not put the blame anywhere. Let's put it on ourselves and move forward, but do it in private. And so that you always continue to kind of grow that relationship. But good question. It's not an easy answer. I don't know if the rest of the guys jump in, because there's really no blueprint here to find out exactly how you get winning culture. I think you do if you care about each other and you're a family, you got a chance. And that'd be my advice.
Yeah, I agree with what Dave's saying. We talked about it earlier, communication, with your guy, especially the quarterback spot. He, in a sense, is an extension of you. If you're the head coach, if you're the OC, he's the one on the field. He's kind of relaying what you want to get done. He's also the guy in the locker. He's your guy in the locker room too. He's relaying your information to the other players and stuff. Or it's got to be where he knows that he's got full confidence in you. You have full confidence in him, and leadership is just going to grow each and every day. It's not just going to be one guy. So he's going to wake up and he's going to be a leader. It's going to take some hard knocks where he's going to get knocked down, and then he's got to see if he can get back up. My whole thing was, if I got knocked down, I always wanted to fall on my back. If I could look up, I could get up. And that was the most important thing, is to let the guys know that I was going to be there as much as I could, and anything physically possible. And to the coaching staff to understand that I'll relay your message as long as the confidence is going both ways. And I was very fortunate to have some great coaches along the way, through college, through pros, that had that same communication skill, that were able to let me know that I was an extension of them to the rest of the ball club.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think the biggest thing for me with coaching quarterbacks is and trying to nurture that leadership, is to allow them to, figure it out, who they are and who they want to be. And really, you got to look around and look at other people, and look at people that you're kind of similar to and aspire to be more like, and I know that helped with me over the years, just learning the game and learning the CFL game. And again, I'll go to, watching all three of the other guys on the panel, but not just watching, when things were happening well, but when things weren't going well. And because that's where I feel like the leadership is needed. When things are going well, and we've all had quarterbacks or seen quarterbacks who, when everything is up and it's all good, then they're great, and they're out in front, they're center and stuff. But I always want to know who people are when things aren't going all that great. And I was always looking to different people to see how they responded to it, how they reacted to it, how they talked to their guys on the sideline, how they took responsibility for things that were happening out on the field, even if it's not their fault sometimes. And those are the things that I try to talk to my guys about, is just, you're always being looked at the quarterback position. You're being looked at from the time you step on the field for warmups, whenever you go to the sidelines, and not just by, cameras or anything, but your teammates. Your teammates are looking at you, and they want to see that you remain confident, you remain into what they're doing, and you don't put your head down. And so those are the things that I'm always just trying to instill in our guys, is that, hey, you're a player as a quarterback, but you're also a little bit more than a player, and that's just what comes with the territory. You're not like everybody else out there, and you have to be okay with that. And most of the great ones are.
There's no exact formula for this. I always go off of my personal experience. I was not a born leader. I think I was put into the leadership position because I played quarterback, and at the quarterback position, people looked up to what you were doing. And it took me a little while to understand the responsibilities that came at this particular position. And early on in my career, I was a knucklehead. I didn't listen to a lot of people, and my career wasn't going that great. But once I took a step back and finally learned from somebody, a guy like Tracy Ham, really helped me define myself as a quarterback, and how to be a consistent championship quarterback, and what he did. Not only just to prepare himself week in and week out, but how the guys responded to him. Right. When he said something, guys responded to him. When he stepped on the field, guys felt that we had a chance to win. And those things always stood out for me. And just at the professional level, he also taught me that mortgages are on the line. People's houses, not only players, but coaches, were on the line in terms of what we do on the field. And it took me a long time to understand that type of responsibility. So I think just me personally, I kind of just grew into this leadership role. And there's other people who are born, like they're born leaders, and they go out there, right? And you got to be able to nurture both. as a quarterback or as a coach. But in terms of the room, the quarterback room, I talk about this with our quarterbacks all the time. I say, guys, we're gonna talk about stuff in here that maybe I'm not gonna share with the entire offense, but I'm gonna trust you guys with this information because I want you guys to see the big picture. The rest of the players are gonna see the big picture down the road, but you're gonna get a little bit more information because I think it's important for you as the leaders of this team. And it goes back to what the guy said as well as how they conduct themselves is going to reflect on the entire team. But I think it starts with you as the coach. I always felt that I wanted to be myself, be genuine, that just be somebody that's going to be speaking my mind when I need to speak my mind. And the guys have to understand that. But they also got to understand they're going to be coached, right? They're going to be coached to a certain standard that we expect in that particular room, and that's the first thing that we do. We sit down and we watch. I got a couple of PowerPoints that I showed them in terms of what I expect from them, how I'm going to grade them, and everything that comes with this position. And then I try to be consistent. I think that's the one thing as a coach, you want to be consistent with your message. But at the end of the day, you got to be able to coach these guys. And then I remember, different coaches. I think Dave or somebody mentioned, when you go into these after a game and you're watching a video and the coach is pointing out the good things and they're pointing out the bad things. And whenever Mark or another head coach was going to talk about me in a negative way, they would let me know. They're like, hey guys, I let you know in this room when we're watching it as a quarterback, the mistakes that you made, but I'm also this week going to point you out to the rest of the guys because it's important that everybody's accountable on that particular football team. So there's a certain, I think, relationship that comes with the quarterback, but you definitely got to be on their side and have their back as well. And I just think whatever happens in your quarterback room, the stuff that you share with them, it has to be, in terms of a two-way street. You're going to get their feedback on what they feel, but at the end of the day, you gotta feel comfortable laying the groundwork for everything. So I think, like I said, there's no specific formula to this. It goes back to what you believe and what type of culture you want for your team, and then you try to sell it and where the guys could buy into it. But I truly do believe it does start with in that quarterback position.
Thank you, Coach.
Be careful of like upstaging your guy in public. As you guys, if you've been around me, I'm a hothead and I wear my emotions too far out on my sleeve. And sometimes there's nothing worse as a quarterback to look over and see your head coach or your OC, with his hands up like, what the fuck are you doing? What? God damn it, you piece of shit. If you say those type of things, it's over, man. So you can't get away with that with your quarterback. And even though under my breath, and I've said it about the coach too when I played, like, shut the hell up. I'm out here working my tail off. You think it's so goddamn easy. But you gotta really I trust it. This is the hardest thing for me is I gotta reel it in, man. I gotta get that emotion under control. And if you show them up too often, be careful. Like when McDaniel showed up Brady on the sideline and he turned on you, you better have a big hammer, because if that guy turns on you too much, you're going to be the one out the door. So just be careful of that. That's something I've had, unfortunately, a few times. I wish I could have pulled back on my temper.
Thank you. Much appreciated. That was very good.
That's awesome, Coach Dickinson. That last little one made me think of Parcells and Sims having that conversation right on the sidelines in the NFL film stuff. Sharif, over to you.
That's pretty old, man. Parcells, Sims. I got to go a little more recent than that. Maybe Danny Mac and Kahari know about that since they're over 50.
Yeah, so I think it's my turn, Matt.
thanks, Rick and Paul, for putting this together, man. This is an amazing experience. Really a privilege to be able to ask you guys a question. I've been trying to get an answer for this, and I think I'm actually going to get it today. So you guys all played for a long time. You coached for a long time. QB arm management, especially during camp. So what did you do as a player? What are you doing as a coach to make sure your QBs aren't getting dead arm, or, making sure that they're healthy throughout camp, and make sure you can get your stuff in, all your throws in, all that pat and go, all the throws in, and then get to the first game and still be healthy? I'm listening.
I'll start. I can tell you more of what not to do than what to do, unfortunately. Yeah, I did a lot of the wrong thing as a player during my last 2 or 3 years. I remember we started one camp with 5 quarterbacks and ended up with 2 pretty quickly. And yeah, I just threw my arm out, and you're just trying to play with that. So I know it's no fun at all. The biggest thing for me is making sure you talk with those guys and hopefully they know their bodies well enough, and let them know. Like, that's one of my big things. I always tell them that story, but I tell them, hey, you're no good to me if your arm is dead. And I know you're trying to make the team. I know there's a lot of pressure with that. I mean, you have, all these places, and you're trying to, go move up in strings and all of those things. But it's just important I'm always checking in with them. That's probably one of the biggest questions I ask during camp, more than anything, is how are your arms feeling? And I try to get them to be as honest as they can with me. And if we need to shut it down a little bit as we go for certain guys or for all of them, then we do that. I think it's like I said, from experience, I know if playing out there with no arm is no fun. I didn't have the biggest arm as it is, and yeah, I remember I knew I was done playing when I was behind center and I looked over at our Z receiver, and he was being press coverage, and it was the first time I was like, I don't think I can throw the ball out there. And I couldn't make a drop and get it out to where I needed to get it to. And so yeah, it's a terrible feeling. And so you want to keep those things healthy as you can.
And I think it's some responsibility of the quarterback as well, me not being a coach. He's got to do his own maintenance. He's got to make sure he's in the trainer room to see the trainers, whether it's a massage before, massage after, I guess we used to call it milking the arm, making sure there's ice on it. I'd always had a trainer would give me an ice pack for my elbow and my shoulder as I was walking off the field. And that was my icing time till I got into the locker room, grabbed a shower, and then was able to soak it. But I think the quarterback has to have some responsibility with that. And like Kahari said, he's got to be able to communicate freely to you to let you know how he's feeling. I mean, all these kids are trying to make a spot. They're trying to get on the team, but they also got to be honest with you, because you're trying to get something done as a head coach or a coordinator to position yourself offensively. We need to get this in, then we got to go to the next thing. So I think it's very important again, back to that communication between you and your quarterbacks on a daily basis. Ask them how the arm's doing. When you start smelling the red hot and the Bengay in the meeting rooms, then we need to do a little more run game and stuff like that. So, and there's no secret. I've always iced from the inside out with cold beer. So that's just been the way I've done it. So, but that may not be what you guys want to do with your players and stuff, but that was later on in the career. But usually that's how most of the time I did it, from near the tail end of the season.
Oh my goodness.
I love it. Inside out.
And the athlete has to know his body. And Danny Mac, you knew your body. That's important.
Thank you, AC.
So Sheriff, I think now at the college level, these kids' arms, they could go forever, right? So I think for us, we got to make sure that that one, we have, we're going to have our 4 quarterbacks and we're going to monitor those. But I think these guys could just keep throwing and throwing forever. But I also do believe that we are. All right. I do believe that, us as coaches, we could see if somebody's limping or not going at their full speed. If there's something on film that you're saying, I could see that his arm is tired, then you got to sit down and talk to him. And that's where it comes back to the responsibility of the athlete, right? But sometimes these guys, like, this might be their only chance, and they're going to just keep throwing and throwing like there's no tomorrow. But I think that's where us as coaches, the training staff could step in when you could see it, that there's going to be an issue because he just doesn't have the same philosophy. So I think that the younger they are, I think their arms are going to be okay. We just got to monitor that. And then, professionally, again, when you're first starting up, you're throwing the ball like crazy and not worrying too much about your arm. And I think there comes a point in every athlete's career, after, 4, 5, 6 years, you start to realize I can't get away with the things that I used to do. And a fine example of that was S.J. Green. Estray, we got him, we had him young and developed his career, and he would see, because I had him, pretty much the last 3 or 4 years of my career. And at that time I was eating so well, I was training a certain way, and he would always laugh at me, right? Because he would come in with McDonald's, with fries, and I'm like, one day, Estray, you'll see that it's gonna hit you. And after 7, 8 years, he realized that he couldn't get away with that anymore, right? So, but those are the guys that get it. There's other guys who don't get it and they just go off to the wayside. But there's those guys that play for multiple years that figure out that they have to change something up in order to extend their career, whatever that is, taking care of the body more, running less. I know for myself, later on in my career, like the last 5 years of my career, I hardly threw at all in the off season. I think I threw probably 2 weeks before camp, just to get my arm ready for camp. And then once I got into camp, then I was good to go. And if my arm was sore, I would tell the coach, okay, coach, my arm is sore. And then I wouldn't throw one-on-one. And I wouldn't throw scally. I would just take some reps off. So that's one way of managing it. But I know for myself, I threw a whole lot less during the off season and almost nothing when it came down to the last 5 years. So I just think, again, the younger they are, they're going to be fine. But us as coaches, we evaluate, and then there's going to have to be a point where we have to step in and say something, because you see that physically that they're not throwing it the same way, and that's where you could go and talk to them.
Stole a lot of my points, AC. God damn it. I do. I like it. I like it a lot. I personally feel like, for myself, who there was never a camp that I didn't have a sore arm. So. And I didn't ice as well from the inside out either as DMAC, but I tried to ice, but to be honest, it didn't matter. Any camp I ever went to with double days, I could not prevent a sore arm. But the thing that did it for me was routes on air and one-on-ones. You throw 12 comebacks in a row. I don't know. Danny Mac might have been able to do that, but that was going to kill my arm for the day. If you got one-on-ones and it's press that day and all you're throwing is go routes, I'm sore. It's not going to handle it well. So for me, it was, if I could just maintain or manage those 2 periods, I was good. I never got sore in team. Hell no. There's not enough balls to throw in team anyway. I'm going to go through the reads, and half the time I'm taking the check down so I get that high completion percentage and try to beat Ricky Ray's record, So it wasn't that I wasn't going to take what was given to me. It was the one-on-ones and routes on air that some coaches just over and over. And by the time, practice started, I was, dead arm already. And then you had another practice in the afternoon. We're fortunate. Players in today's world, we don't really have double practices anymore. And, I'm kind of the opinion, like you said, once a day, you should be able to handle it. Like AC, I do not agree with throwing year round. I think that's a mistake. There's so many muscles that you should be working besides your throwing muscles that's going to improve your arm strength. And if you're not doing those type of things in the off season, I think it's a mistake. I think you can definitely throw your arm extensively in the off season, and you just to me, you're tempting fate that it's not gonna work as well. That doesn't mean you can't get strong quicker, your core is stronger, your grip strength, tons of things you guys can do to that. But no, there was a little thing down in IMG. We were down there at one camp, and they were trying to like tell you guys how many throws and these little all this analytic stuff, and you want to try to make sure you get them before they get injured. But I think every person's different. I just don't. I mean, Danny, you tell me if I'm wrong. I don't think your arm ever was sore. I mean, you could throw it at 100 balls a game, you know, and it isn't games, it's practice. But certain guys just have a finite number of throws in their arms. I think we all do, but some are thousands, and others, you know, might be less. So understand who your guy is. Give him some breaks. I like whoever said the idea of, you know, hey, understand if you're on a second and long day and your quarterback's arms bothering him, don't put him in for all those plays, you know, put him in for the screens, put him in for those type of plays, and still have success and still work it without necessarily hopefully hurting their arm.
That's great. Thank you, guys. The only thing I'm wondering is Canadian or American beer. I mean, I'm not sure.
Canadian. Canadian.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. Thanks.
It stayed there for 17 years because of the beer.
All right, well, we'll move on to a question from out in New Brunswick from Ray Perkin, a high school coach out in New Brunswick. His question is, as a QB, you guys all had great chemistry with one specific receiver. AC had Cahoon, Danny Mack had Flutie, Kahari had Stiegel, Dickinson had G-Roy. How do you recommend coaching up a QB, especially a young QB, not to look just straight at one receiver he likes on every play?
Good one. It's tough because you want to get the job done. And, you know, if you got one guy that you know can do it, yeah, you're going to look to him first. But I think it's for I get to express to your quarterbacks, let's try to move the ball around wherever the read. You always want to go wherever the read takes you. And I think it's important that the guys understand that part first. But if they've come across a guy that seems to be on the same page as them, is almost like with Darren, it was like having another quarterback on the field. He was able to read things. Not only was he getting himself open, but he was getting other guys open. And I think it's tough to take that away from a quarterback unless you see that he is not going through his reads and he's just eyeballing that one guy. Because as Dave talked about before, you got to move defenses around. If you start eyeballing, all you're doing is telegraph right where you're going with the football. And it doesn't matter how good your receiver is, the ball's not going to get there. I think it's for him to be able to read the field. I mean, if you're doing half field reads or full field reads, teach them everything, and just try to see who develops the chemistry with. I think all of us have had great number ones that we all look to, but we also had great supporting casts that we looked to as well. We had the 2s, the 3s, the 4s. We all had those guys as well. We knew they'd be in the right spot. So it's a matter of not just having the one, but having the other guys challenge that one to try to be the best guy on the field and let the quarterback go through his reads and make those throws properly.
I'll go. Yeah, I agree. When I had Milt, the thing that I always said is I needed somebody really good on the other side of Milt to make it work, because if you just have one guy, teams can guard against that one player. And so, and even the years that I had him, he usually didn't have the most catches because he was such a big home run guy for me and everything that it was kind of break in case of emergency sometimes. And Milt was the same way, is that he was a coach on the field. And so there were certain situations where I saved it. I knew I was going to him. He was one of those guys. And I've said this before, we'd have new coordinators come in most years, and you know, we have our blitz read for certain guy, but Milt saw the field just like a quarterback. So he saw blitz every time as soon as I was seeing it. And so was like, why would I go somewhere else? And he can go upfield, and I didn't mind taking a hit for a touchdown. And so we would just make it work that way. And so when you can hang your hat on somebody like that, then that's a beautiful thing. But like Danny said, you need those other guys. And so I would make it a point. I had it in my head that I had to throw out to Z a certain amount of times during a game. I had to spread that ball around just so I could get to where I wanted to get to in tough situations. And so, yeah, it's definitely about going through your reads and trusting that, but also to get to your best guy, you need those other guys to really be effective around them. And I had Robert Gordon or Arlen Bruce or somebody on that other side. That's when we were most effective in that. Free safeties couldn't just concentrate on one guy.
Jump in, AC there. I know you had multiple guys. I would like to ask you coaches something. I mean, when you design your offense, you basically are taking your best player and you're designing routes for his strengths. And if you got a smart player, you're giving him option routes. And if you give an option route, the coverage can't be wrong, supposedly. You're supposed to be right more often, but you need smart players. And that's what I think sometimes you're hearing about go-to guys. Now, what can take that away? Double teams, two-man, leverage press, these type of things, walling together with a linebacker. So something can take you off that. But when you say a go-to guy, it's because the coaches are designing the offense versus man-to-man or calling plays that are focusing on those guys. I didn't not throw to G-Roy or throw to Claremont instead based on whether I liked the guy. It was that I knew what the play was designed for, where my eyes should start, what coverage am I seeing. But trust me, if it's man-to-man and they're low, you go to your fast guy, your guy that can get away from people. If it's press and you've got a quick guy that runs a lot of shifty moves, go there. But if you got a long strider, I'm off. I'm going somewhere else. So I don't actually believe that any quarterback worth their salt is necessarily just saying, I'm throwing to him regardless of what's going on. So yeah, I think it's the coaches that are deciding a lot of times who your go-to guy is. You get into the red-green zone, you call plays that are focusing on a guy. And as a coach, you decide who that is, not the quarterback. You're putting that guy in the position to be successful. And now he has to be either successful or not. And then if he's not doing it, well, guess what? That guy ain't in that spot next game. But you're still calling similar plays. So even though I love G-Roy, he was so shifty and changed speeds, and I don't ever remember him dropping a ball. Never came into my head unless, like Kahari said, cover zero or straight up man-to-man with no help. And then you pick your favorite guy and you say, you know what? He's better than that DB all day, twice on Sunday. That's my guy. So that's kind of a long answer to me being on that page.
Well, I think we all had great supporting casts. I think Dave, everybody's made a good point. But I think Kahar, you mentioned, you had all these different coordinators, but you still were hitting G-Roy, right? You're still in Milt because the offensive coordinators would identify these are our top receivers. We're going to design plays for these guys, like Dave just mentioned, right? So if I'm in high school and I have this one guy and he's going to be a main target for me, I mean, that's what you do as an offensive coordinator. What you don't want is just to have the quarterback just throw it up to him when he's doubled in triple coverage, right? He has to go through that read and make sure that he's able to get the ball to the other guys and not just force things. Because the defense, again, they're not done. They're going to know exactly who you're going to try to go to. So same thing for us. You mentioned Ben Cahoon, but we had a lot of great receivers, and they were put in the position to be the number one or number two target. And then I would go through my reads and get the ball to the guy based off of my reads. But it was the coach's responsibility to get these guys in the position. And we were deep. We had a lot of great guys. And I always told Jim, I don't care how big they are. I just want them to be open and catch the ball. To me, that was the most important thing. And all these offensive coordinators would design the plays accordingly. And then it's up to the quarterback to go through his reads and get the ball to the proper guy and know when to throw blitz and so forth like that. So it's just find that guy and design plays for him, but it's important that the quarterback doesn't force it to him every single time. He has to go through his proper reads.
Great job. We're getting a lot of good feedback. I know guys are texting Sharp. I've got one here from YouTube from Coach Joe. He says, I think it kind of takes off a little bit of what you just talked about, Coach Dickinson. When it comes to building your passing game plan, what are the biggest percentage of types of QB reads that you will make up the majority of your game plan? For instance, progression, defender keys, and coverage, stuff like that. So who wants to start?
I think sometimes I don't know what level he's at. I'll give you a little philosophy. There's a lot of teams that play half field football, man zone, one side to check downs. There's other teams out there that try to build it up off of what AC said, contours or numbers, go away from rotations. For me, as far as the read progression is, I just want to give them a chance and I want them to understand what they're doing. So if you're picking the left side, why did you pick the left side? Okay. What did you see to take you there? If you start there, this is your progression, 1 to 2 to back to run. If you don't like what you're seeing over there, maybe rotation, maybe contour, those type of things, and you go to the other side, let me tell you how to read that one out. The first thing I think quarterbacks need to understand before anything else is, am I protected? So whenever you do your read progressions, the first thing they need to know is, am I protected and where are my problems? And who's gonna show me those problems? And I wasn't that great at it, to be honest with you. I got hit in the guy who hit me right in the face, I never saw him. I thought I was protected and I wasn't. But some guys are just, I have to admit, are just so good at seeing blitzes these days and seeing where their problems are, understanding your protection schemes and knowing when it's your job to beat the blitz, or in vice versa. Sometimes in certain systems, receivers will change their route, and that's complex. That is hard. That's when you're asking two people to be on the same page and see the same thing. Sound like Kari was saying that with Milt. I heard rumors of this, Kari. You have to tell me. It was a curl, and he goes to the post. And is that a true?
All the time. All the time.
And nothing on your piece of paper told him to do that, right?
Nothing. But he'd see the safety out of there, and I'd know that he'd see him. So he was just. Yeah, he would. But I mean, there are only a few guys that can do that, right? So we use the term.
I'm not sure, if you score, you high five, but maybe you have somebody else on the other side going to that hole. Who knows? But
yeah,
I would be very, like you said, when the guy's question was how do you do progressions? I don't think you want to get too fancy. I mean, how many quarterbacks can really go through, and find third and fourth guys? Use your legs, be an athlete. Find a couple quick reads, maybe a check down if you're reading zones. You can teach them eyes high to low, low to high, outside in, all sorts of things like that. But really, in theory, just don't make it too complex for them. And at the lower level football you're at, we're just going to start here, 1 to 2, to be an athlete. I really believe that's sometimes better than trying to say, if you see this, go here. If you see that, go there. I think that gets a little too complex, especially in lower level football on that. So be interested to see what the rest of you guys have on that, but that's kind of where we're at.
It's funny, Dave, you mentioned protection. And I remember, when I first started off, it was like we had the running shoot with John Jenkins, and when the quarterback was in charge of making these R calls, left calls to change the protection to know you're hot. And I'm like, that's great. I know it, but if I see the Sam Cunn, I got to make an R call. So that was challenging. And then, with Don Matthews and that offense, it was side adjustments, right? We had to do side adjustments for cover 0, which is, again, having two guys on the same page. And then with Mark's offense, we had, one particular guy that was our hot guy, whoever that might be. And that's how it worked. So, and all I wanted to know was I protected or not? Like when I played the protection stuff, like, I knew where the sand, the MAC, all this stuff, but it was 4 to a side for this. I'm like, if that safety's in the middle, I want to be protected, period. I don't care what coverage it is behind it, I'm protected. But there will be weeks where the safety's in the middle and this team is bringing 4 weak. Now I had to be aware of that, because if they're bringing 4 to the back, which this team did, I think it was Benavides there complaining, when they were in DC. I had to be aware of that, right? So if we were in a 60 protection and my back was weak and the free safety lined up weak on the hash, I knew I had to be worried about this 4 week. But most of the time, I told the coach, safety's in the middle, I want to be protected. So you got to do what you have to do to protect the quarterback. And if you guys can't do it, then I'll adjust from there. But as a coach, you can't do that. As a player, I had a little more, especially late in my career, I could ask them what I wanted and did not want. But for, this whole protection stuff, that's the most important thing. They have to know exactly when they're hot and why they're hot. And that's one thing that we try to stress. We struggled in 2019 at the university level, missing a couple of cover zero throws. So now we stress the protection. And even now, when we go out and work out with the guys and we're going through a concept, I tell the quarterbacks, we're playing the game right now. Start with the free safety. Where's that free safety? What's the contour of the defense? And I have to explain, okay, versus this concept, this is what we're looking for. Okay, we know we're going to throw this out route, but I want you to visualize why you're throwing it instead of just throwing it. So that's one way for me to teach the quarterback in terms of find the free safety, and we won't miss a cover zero throw. But in terms of our concepts, I mean, they're not too extravagant. Like I said, going from the CFL, what I was able to do, what the quarterbacks were able to do, are quite different. I got to be able to see the game through their eyes and see what they are capable of doing. So, we have certain concepts where it's just we're reading the boundary. Okay, we're going to just read the field, but this time we're going to read the boundary halfback. If he's low, we're going to the field. If he's high, we're staying into the boundary. And we go to that with the quarterbacks week in and week out. So I'm constantly looking at their eyes to make sure that they're starting pre-snap and then post-snap. If I'm asking them to, okay, continue with your eyes on the first step, looking at the free safety because of this concept, I need to see that. And if they don't do it, then I got to remind them, where were your eyes? So I'm back there a lot, constantly looking at their eyes, pre-snap and post-snap, to make sure they're in the right location depending on the concept.
Got it? All right. Yeah, I'm definitely doing the same thing as AC, as far as just trying to get into the quarterback's heads on reads. My feeling on reads is, we utilize all different things, from progression to high-low to man zone. I always want my guys to know, where to go with the ball in cover zero for sure. But also I try to get in and practice plays enough so that they can end up getting to that second and third read. That's when I know that we have a quality play. If it's always the first read, if they're guessing, and I can feel that they're guessing a little bit, then we just keep practicing it. And I try not to put anything out on the field where I don't feel my quarterback has a great handle on it. And like Dave said, there's some plays that I'm like, hey, we're reading this guy to check down, to run. And we'll progress on it later after that. So we'll go, now I feel like you've done it enough, you practice it enough, you're seeing it better. Now we can go 1 to 2 to check down. Maybe we get to a point where you can eliminate something early and you can go 1 to 2 to 3 to check down. So always just trying to get into their brains and see. One of the things I think that a problem that coaches do, and something that coaches do that's a little pet peeve of mine, is that, with that clicker in your hand, without the time constraints of being a quarterback, everything is much easier. And so you always have to remember that they have to figure this out in, 2.5 seconds, 3 seconds. And while people are running around them and everything. So it is tougher. And so when you get into the room and you say, oh, hey, you missed this, you did this, I'm more asking questions more than saying, hey, you screwed this up. I'm like, hey, what did you see here? Why did you go here? What happened with this? And so that time back there and that restraint, it changes things. And so you have to be aware of that, and you have to make sure that the quarterbacks know that you're aware of it too, because I've been in that situation where, hell, you didn't see that dude running across. Sometimes there's somebody 6'6" running across your face and you don't see that guy for some reason, but on film you can't see that. And so that's why you have to kind of get into the quarterback's heads and make sure that they know that you're aware that 2.5 seconds is a part of the game. If it was just done on a video game, anybody could do it and anybody can figure it out. But that time constraint is big. And so when I see a guy can do it within the time that we need him to do it to be successful, that's when I know we have something.
I think what the guys are saying, without me, I haven't coached with the quarterbacks or things like that. One of the things that I was always told is I want you to think, your thinking process is happening before the snap. Once the snap happens, now I want you to react. If I was ever to give a response back to Coach Bowden or Coach Rick that, well, I thought this guy was going to do this, or I was thinking this, they said they weren't doing a good enough job getting the information to me, to showing me how to go through my reads. If you're hearing your quarterback saying, I think, or I thought, going through his reads, it's too late. It's got to be a reaction. He's got to know once that ball snapped, he's made a decision that if they rotate here, I'm going here. If this guy moves here, then I'm going there. But if there's a thinking, if he says, well, I thought he was going to go a little bit wider, I thought this, then it just comes back to, he has to react to what the defense is going to give to him and do it on a quick basis. Like we're talking about 2.5 seconds. If he's thinking back there, he's probably going to be late on the throw, or he's not going to be hesitant to throw the football. And that's what I've always been taught is to do all the thinking before the snap. Once the snap happens, it's just reaction time from there. And that comes from the week of practice, being put in different situations where you just react and see what you see, throw it, and go from there and get ready for the next play.
I wanted to jump in on that point, Danny, because sometimes when I would play, I would be off something so fast because I knew it was cover 4 and that's not a good route versus cover 4. And Huff would tell me, hey, why didn't you throw it over there? That's where we start our eyes. I said, nah, it's cover 4. That's not going to be there. And he said, you've got too much trust in the defense. They screw up. Look over there. Confirm it with your eyes. And it's true. Just quick confirm. Just quick confirm with your eyes. Yep, he covered it. I'm off. But I missed some good throws sometimes. And I thought Huff gave me a great coaching point on that. Confirm with your eyes. Doesn't have to be very long now. But even by confirming it, you've moved the defense. You've forced the guy to cover the route that you expect to be covered, but that's going to open up your next guy. So to me, it was always a good thing. Confirm with your eyes. You're right, D-Mac. And then trust it. I mean, I think you actually told me, or maybe it was Mueller told me that Lancaster said, no string on the ball, man. Yep. Once it goes, it goes. Trust your eyes and rip. And I don't know if I was great at that, man. After a couple interceptions, that referee started playing defense. But I will say, I like that theory when Danny said react. Yeah, but confirm with your eyes and don't predict. Just because you think it's this coverage and it won't be there, guess what? They're wrong. They're wrong sometimes.
I'll add, because we use that word a lot, is the confirmation post snap, and starting your eyes where they need to be, because you might see something, and the quarterbacks they'll do the exact same thing what they just talked about. Coach, I saw the coverage pre-snap, and I took my eyes off it. I go, yeah, but your eyes got to start to the left to let the other routes that are coming develop, because if you go back too early, your eyes are going to tell you that guy is not open. but he's not open because your eyes came back just maybe a half second too fast, or these routes are not developing on the backside. So we stress that a lot. Confirm. We get a pre-snap read, what's the contour of the defense, and then we got to confirm it. We can't sit back and assume that it's going to be this, because shit, the defense is going to move. They're going to be moving, doing different things. So I totally agree. We got to confirm what we see post-snap.
Great stuff. Tyler Bulmer, who's on the call, congratulations. Tyler has just recently added an extra wide receiver to his trio of young boys, and he's on dad duty tonight, so he's asked me to ask the question. Danny, maybe we'll start with you. It sort of revolves around what will it take for us to actually be able to get a Canadian quarterback on the field, and then maybe I'll go kind of to the coaches after that to follow up what we need to do as guys coaching kids up through the system.
Well, I think it's just what we talked about pretty much tonight. It's getting the quality of the quarterback to be able to do what the coaches want them to do on a consistent basis. I think that's we talked about the quarterback being the spot, and I think that's where sometimes the coordinator says, okay, well, I want this guy because he has this experience. He's been in this school. He's done this. He's he hasn't played the Canadian in the Canadian university. That's where it's got to change a little bit there. I think it's got to be the coaching philosophy. Can this guy who I got behind center do what I'm asking the person to do? So I can see a Canadian quarterback being in the CFL. It's just a matter of that transition happening. And what I would like to see is that third, bring back the three quarterbacks and have that third quarterback be a Canadian spot, to where it's more of a development type, to get those guys to understand what you're hearing tonight and be able to apply it. A lot of the kids that are playing quarterback in the CFL now have gotten a lot of years of experience of playing football. And not to say the Canadian kids haven't, but they've gotten down here. I mean, you got Super 11, you got 7-on-7, there's football every weekend down here in Florida. And these kids are doing all this type of stuff. So the Elite 11, I think, is over in Orlando right now. And it's just a matter of getting that into that Canadian football system up there at the college level, to where these guys are seeing more and more, and they're able to go in there and do what these coaches are asking them to do on a daily basis and be consistent with it.
I'll jump in since I have a Canadian quarterback on my roster, Michael O'Connor. It's already happening. Don't worry about it. It's happening. It's just, we need to have, like Danny says, the coaches quit being so stubborn. Just look at him as a quarterback and don't worry about his nationality. And I'm not sure I'm into the three quarterback with the Canadian being the third, because coaches cheat. We cheat all the time. We're going to put somebody in there and play special teams. I think it's important that I personally like this deal where if you want to do that, your Canadian could be a part of your whatever roster, meaning right now quarterbacks don't have a nationality. Well, fine. If you want 21 Canadians as part of your team and one of them's a quarterback, he's Canadian. Why do we have to strip him of his nationality just because he plays quarterback? If he's a starter, he's a starter. We have that rule in, which is nice. It's coming. But there's no coach that's going to win enough games that's going to put their starter or their backup in because he's Canadian just to do it. He's going to play his best guy, and they're already coming. They're coming, guys. They're coming. There's coaches, listen, I know Jeff Steed's on here and his son's playing it. There's more and more coaching in Canada. Yeah. Is it quite to the standard of maybe that every kid gets in the US? Probably not, but it's already coming. And then I think it just takes almost maybe quit asking so many questions about it. Like what I disagree with when I had third string quarterbacks is, why are we talking about them so much? Let the kid just be a kid and grow and become a player and be himself. Andrew Buckley is not responsible for being Canadian hope. Let him just be Andrew Buckley and he'll make it. And I think he would have made it if he decided not to be a doctor. So it's a tough position. Let's not fool ourselves. You're going against the greatest well, us four would agree with this, the greatest athletes in the world playing quarterback. But you're also, every single high school team down in the States puts either their best leader or their best athlete down in that role. So it's not like it's easy, but it's already happening. Nathan O'Rourke's a good player. Jesse Palmer probably could have played up here. He got behind some Calvillo guy and couldn't beat him out. But it's coming, and it's going to happen. And then just let him make his own mistakes, and hopefully the coaches have faith and believe in him and let the kid grow.
So I remember this question's come up quite a long time, and I noticed when I was playing, and then we would get a Canadian kid coming into camp. I honestly think they were shell shocked. Like I'm not sure if they were expecting the competition to be as strong. So I always, when I was playing, I would always tell the young kids, the young quarterbacks, when to go down into the States and experience what's going down there, just to get your mind wrapped around the competition that you're going to be against down the road. That's what stood out to me when I was playing. It's just these guys were just they were just surprised. Like, my goodness, they got 5 other quarterbacks right now, and their arms are stronger than mine, and that was based off of my personal experience. I did like the fact a few years back where the Canadian kids were able to go to the CFL camps just to get some type of experience. And I think, it gives them an indication of what to expect down the road, the competition that they're going to be in down the road. But all the Canadian quarterbacks that we are talking about right now, majority of them went down to the States and got a chance to go down there. And now that I'm at the CIS level and I'm seeing some of these quarterbacks, I mean, there's a lot of potential there. There is, and I think they just need that chance. And I think they're, in Calgary and with Dave and Huff, they didn't give these guys a chance out of the kindness of their hearts. They gave them a chance because they had the skills to compete with these other guys that they brought in, and they're able to, work their way up. And it would have been fun to see Buckley stick around, but shoot, we need a lot of doctors out there as well, especially right now. But I think overall, Danny Mac talked about, these. I mean, in the States, football it's like hockey up here, right? It's like all year round, and they're always competing and doing 7-on-7 and doing different things. And it would be nice to have, and maybe they do have it here in Canada. I don't know enough about it, but there has to be that mentality of just developing them a little bit more, all year round. And now that I'm at the college level, I mean, right now, we're working out with our kids on the field, and we have so much. Like, we only could do an hour. It's one coach for 8 players, but we have all this individual time to help develop these little things that you don't get a chance to do during the season. When the season starts, you have 10, 15 minutes of individual time with your guys, because you have all these other things to deal with. But if we could spend more time with them and have more rules or flexibility where we could do more stuff with them, I think that's going to help develop them as well at a lower level. So, I'm just looking forward for these kids to continue to get these opportunities and give them a chance. I think that's what it comes down to. Just give them a chance and let them go out there and compete. And that's, Calgary is a fine example of teams that are a team that has done that so far.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with what you guys are saying. It's going to happen. I've, through the program where they come into your training camp, I've seen some guys. We had Michael O'Connor in BC. Other guys that I like, that had the talent, that had the ability to play, and then it's just getting that opportunity and making the most of it when it happens. You have to realize there's so many guys down in the States. There's so many guys to choose from to play quarterback. You're not just talking D1 and 1AA and D2 and D3. I mean, there's just a plethora of guys that that they're competing against. So it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be a hard road, but again, they like Dave said, they come in with that added pressure. We have, Hugo Richard on our roster, and being from Quebec and being in Laval, and you know what, he's getting more questions after practice than our starting quarterback, and I understand it. I get it, but just need to let these guys develop and be what they're going to be, and figure it out, and make their mistakes, and there's somebody that's going to come through, and once one comes through, then that just opens the floodgates. And so no, I'm not too worried about it.
Awesome. Great answers there. Jeff Steed, you are next on the clock. We got 2 questions left, guys. So Jeff Steed, you're up next.
Hey, yeah. So just kind of almost, it's funny you guys started talking about that, but to piggyback on that stuff, and I know Dave mentioned my name a couple times, just talking about my young son moving up the ranks, but you guys all ended up going to the U.S. or are from the U.S. And I guess my question is, if you're a young quarterback, whether it's high school going to college or college going to the pros, what are 3 things, or a couple things, don't have to be 3 things, but a couple things that you would say to a kid, these are the 3 things you got to focus on in order to move to the next level, whether it's physical or mental?
Good question. 3 things, huh? It's only 3. The game, well, knowing that the game's going to be faster. The windows are going to be smaller. The guys are going to be faster, and the hits are going to hurt more. I think that's one thing for sure. Also, you got to take care of yourself. You got to build not only your physical body, but your mental body too. It's a lot of film watching. It's understanding the concepts. You got to be able to know what these coaches want you to do, on a consistent basis. I think that's the big thing for me, is a quarterback that's consistent, making the right decisions, going to the right spots. And then you're hoping that the throw is right. But I would think physically and mentally building yourself as you're growing up the ranks. And then after that, it comes back to the leadership. I think would be the third one, is no matter what level you are or class, if you're a freshman in high school or a freshman in college or a rookie in the pros, leadership is going to follow you if you have it. If you're a vocal leader and that's the way you run, that's fine there. But if you're vocal leading and there's nobody behind you, you're not a leader. You're just a loudmouth. So you got to make sure that what you're doing, everyone's seeing. What Coach Bowden mentioned to me a long time ago was, when you walk into the huddle, there's 10 sets of eyes looking at you. You can make or break this play, and they'll be able to read your eyes about it. And then not only in the huddle, they're watching you on the sidelines when good things happen and when bad things happen. So I always try to play it even, try to be an even keel person on the field. They get too wound up or anything like that. My main focus was just trying to get each guy on that field to play just a smidget better than what their ability is. And I think that goes a long way. So that would be those 3 things I would just make sure the young kids know. It's going to be faster, it's going to be harder, and then just being a leader. Don't just say, hey, I'm a leader, and just see what happens. Do the things when people aren't watching. That's what's going to build you up. And when you're doing those little things, it's going to help you grow as not only as a person, but also as a quarterback.
I would say one of the big things I would say is a quarterback, especially a Canadian quarterback, go to camps, go to it. I mean, I know the borders closed and things like that right now, but hopefully they open up soon, and they have that access. But see what's out there, and for a lot of reasons, you know, I went to camp at UC Davis, and that's how I got to know the school and knew that it was a place that I wanted to go. But growing up, I wanted to go to either Stanford or Cal, so I went to Stanford's camp before my senior year, and just got to see kind of what they were looking for, what these other quarterbacks brought to the table, the level of play, and it showed me that I could play with these guys, you know, and that was one of the things that you need at that quarterback position is confidence and to know that, hey, I stack up with these other guys. And I think AC had mentioned it when, you know, when a young quarterback comes in and they don't feel like they necessarily belong. A lot of that is because they just haven't been in that atmosphere before, and they haven't, you know, seen this other competition and seen what these other guys can do. So that brought a lot. Stanford stopped recruiting me, but I was like, I'm going to be better than Stanford's quarterback, you know, and that was my feeling because I had seen, you know, what was going on out there. And so whatever it does for you to chip on your shoulder or let you know what you need to aspire to and what these other guys have that you don't, and being honest with yourself or what you do have, then I think that's a great way to get a feel for what's out there and to be seen and to let people know that, hey, I'm somebody that can play this game.
I'm going before you, Dave. You're going last again. Well, I always try to reflect everything that I do now. I kind of reflect off of my personal journey, and I try to share that with the people that I'm coaching or dealing with. And I think the biggest thing is the reason why all of us on the panel were able to play for so long, because I think we were consistent, right? So whether we're at the high school level, the university level, the professional level, we were consistent, and you know, we kept on going forward because we were not complacent, right? You cannot, as an athlete, you're going to be athletic, you're going to get away with a lot of things, but as you get into a higher level, whether it's high school or college, the next guy is going to be just as good as you. So what's going to separate you? Well, you got to be able to have the ability to be consistent and improve week in and week out, year in and year out. You cannot be complacent. And I think I try to share that with a lot of professional athletes, because the average span for an athlete, a professional athlete, is 3 to 4 years, you know, and that's because those guys get there and they're good enough, but they're not doing enough to get to that next level, right? Because at the end of the day, you know, we're paying you X amount, we could bring in a new guy to do that. So if you're complacent and you're happy at that particular level, well, you're going to be shown the door. But if you keep challenging yourself, and I think the other thing that's important, you have to be open-minded. You got to be able to grow as a person and as an athlete. And I just share that with you guys because, again, early on in my career, I was very stubborn. I thought I had all the answers. I didn't want to learn from anybody. And I was released after 4 years in my career. And I was very fortunate that Jim Pop had some confidence in me that to let me grow. But I was stubborn. So I think you got to be consistent. You cannot be complacent, and you got to be open-minded. And I think every athlete could take some of that information and grow from there. And that's what kind of helped me. So that's the thing that we share with our quarterbacks. Hey guys, you guys want to stay on the field? You got to be consistent. Okay. Which the play you did before or the grade you had before, it didn't matter. You got to do it again the following week. Okay. Now are you willing to grow? Are you willing to challenge yourself and grow? As I'm giving you information that, you know, last year we had this read, but man, you did it. You made it look easy now. So now we're going to add something to it. So are you ready to take that next step going forward? So I think those things really help me. And that's the stuff that I try to share with the guys that I'm coaching now.
All right, batting cleanup here, AC. Thanks. Jeff, I wanted to make sure okay, listen, like the reason they're going to the U.S., sorry guys, but at that stages that we were growing up and still maybe this stage, there's probably more quality coaching down there. And don't get offended by that. They've been at it longer and they've had more access to top level coaches. And that's why I commend all you guys for doing these type of things, because you're trying to find ways to improve your coaching. And there's no reason right now with technology and YouTube and all that, that we can't up the level of coaching, but it still might not be as good at the high school level. You know, maybe you're lucky enough, Jeff, that you coach your son and you've got good assistants, but you might only have 2 or 3 that really understand it. Or in the US, they got 12, and they've got maybe their money and their budget is so big down there that their high school, that weight training is first period and last period of every day, and that they just football, just eat and breathe it. I don't even think it's healthy, to be honest with you. I think it's better sometimes to be a well-rounded athlete. But guess what? I think as a quarterback position, it's kind of like a goalie. You're kind of pegged in at age 12 or something, and that's your position, and you better learn every single bit about it. Whether that gets you to the next level, though, I don't think it does. I think the first thing on that is each and every one of us, I don't think any of us are athletic enough to think that we'd even get a sniff in today's world, but we maximize what I would say maximize you, which means maximize what you can do. I don't personally think I could have been a whole lot better. I did what I could do at every stage, and I tried to get better, but I'm never going to be fast, never going to be strong, never going to be tall, never going to have nice hair. So just 4 things that we're going to be. But I tried to maximize me. I'm going to be the quickest I can. I'm not going to be able to outstrength you, so I better be quick. The other thing, Jeff, I really believe, and your son probably has, and you do, is they got to love it. Love of your crafts, man. If you don't love the game, I don't care how much you, as a dad, you try to put into it, it's not happening, because they'll pull back. So if they are the ones pushing, now you got something, okay? And then ultimately, self-confidence. I think I heard Kahari, D-Mac, AC. I just had a feeling I was going to win, and I was going to do something to win. I mean, even if it's a little bit, I'm going to find a trick here. I'm going to do something. I'm going to win. I'm going to find a way to beat you. And that's why when it comes down to at the end of the game, and I mean, I remember losing that Grey Cup to Danny, I was exhausted, and I actually looked across and said, the better team won. They just outplayed us. They were better and fresher. And as an athlete, I can feel okay about that. I can, because I remember getting cut in the NFL and I didn't miss one day, and I did everything that I thought I could. And ultimately, when things don't go your way, if you haven't maximize yourself and done those things, I mean, you don't really feel like you've done what you should do as an athlete. So if you've done what you need to do and it doesn't work out, I'm still disappointed. I still have negative feelings, but at least I can look in the mirror. And that's only certain kids are going to do this, by the way. Only certain ones, like the cream's going to rise. Don't worry about it. That if your kid is destined to be great and he loves the game and he's going to do what he needs to do, if it's in there, he'll do it. You can push, but not that hard. I mean, he's going to be the pushing. He's going to do it. You give him goals and opportunity, yeah, but it's him. It's the kid. The kid is going to, basically decide whether or not it's done. I'm going to go off on topic here on privilege. Most parents in Canada and all that, like, the first thing I think is the states. And the reason is that is because that's what Canadians sometimes feel is the best way to get to them to a certain goal. But what we got to understand is, Anthony's here. Okay. Kahari lives in BC. I'm sitting down here in Calgary. Let's go. Let's make sure that we are providing for these younger generation, give them the tools that we're doing. And Danny can take them to the beach in Florida. We can we can teach it, but I'm serious about that. We are doing what, you're doing it. I know you're doing it. You're giving your kid a chance, and it's up to him. Give him a chance. And that kid will, if he loves his craft, if he's maximizing himself, like I see him on Facebook or whatever you post, and then ultimately he gets that self-confidence and has that drive, he's going to maximize it. If it's there, it's there. It's going to work whether you go to the USC, whether you go to Montana, Florida State. I think you do certainly still see that cream rise to the top. So hopefully, long-winded answer, but I believe in the process, but also believe in the kid. And most of the time, the kid is the one driving the bus.
Awesome, fellas. Appreciate it, man.
Forget about
All righty, and back to Sheriff for our last question of the night.
Well, I'm privileged to be able to ask two questions here. So, we talked about early on in the discussion about, moving the defense. The quarterback wants to move the defense. We also talked about reading the defense, right? And to me, those are kind of two different things. Reading the defense to me is kind of trying to determine what space the defender's trying to occupy or take away. And manipulating the defense or moving the defense is trying to dictate where he's going to go, right? And so I didn't play quarterback, and I just want to know how, what are tools that you guys used or that you teach to help the quarterback navigate that kind of. I think moving the defense or manipulating is the next level of reading defense. And I think it's something we lack in Canada, I'll be honest. And so I'd just like to know how you guys see it and how you guys would teach it or help a quarterback, navigate through that.
Well, I think the first thing, Sheriff, is like for us, in terms of our eyes, where they start, for at least for us, we're asking the quarterback to start one way, not because we want to move the defense, because that's where the read is going to start. And then with our eyes starting that way, let's say to the left, that naturally might move a free safety, halfback, but we're not doing specific, hey, quarterback, we got to look left to move these guys. No, our eyes just have to start there because the read is that particular concept and read is telling us to start that way. And then we got to confirm it post snap. And, with our eyes starting left, that might move a safety here and there. But we are not specifically doing it to move somebody in particular. And then the second thing is, like I mentioned before, like we just might have a regular, curl flat concept coming back to some type of under where post snap, the quarterback's eyes are going there. But what we try to do is always start with our quarterback. Where's the free safety? And we're always saying, what's the contour of the defense? Well, for us versus a curl flat concept, I want to start with the safety because he's going to tell me whether it's going to be cover zero or not. He's going to tell me, am I going to have an issue with my protection based on where his alignment is to the back? Okay. And then, so if it's not cover zero or there's no issues with our protection, now my eyes are going to go to the area where the hook flat's going to start. So post snap, I'm telling the quarterback, your eyes are looking through, okay, to where the corner is going to end up, the corner route, to see what's available. Is the curl available? Is the flat available? Because we outflank the flat defender in zone or man, and then you come back to your third or fourth option. So that's one way where the quarterback's eyes are going one particular way. There's others where we're going off of the free safety. So our eyes are always going to start at the free safety. Post snap, where is he at? Is he going to stay in the middle? Well, then I'm going to, favor going to the boundary this play. Or if he's going to be working a little weak, now I'm going to go to the field. So we're kind of reacting off of him, confirming what we think is going to be post snap. But for us, it's always, let's start with that safety to see if it's going to be cover zero or we're going to have an issue with our protection. And then two, our eyes are going to the area depending on the concept that we are teaching them, right? So one, curl flat concept, it doesn't matter. Our eyes are going to a certain area, but there's other times where we're going to read the free safety and we're going to work away from him at times. So then we got to stay on him maybe another step or two. And then we have our quick game, where our quick game, it's, we're either going to ask the quarterback, you have the flexibility of going to the field or to the boundary, or I'm like, no, we're going to start to the boundary and work our way back. I think with a veteran quarterback, when you give them, this is based off of my experience, when you give them more options, okay, based off of your pre-snap look, you could either go into the boundary on the quick game or go to the field, depending on the free safety and then the contour of the defense. If that corner's off to the field, let's take that. If the boundary is loose there, let's take that. But I found with young quarterbacks not to give them a lot of options. Direct them into the area that you want to go and then work back from there. But again, it goes back to knowing your quarterback and getting a feel for them. If you have an experienced guy where he sees the field, not that he's telling you he sees the field, but you're confirming it as a coach. Yes, he can do this. And then you give him a little bit more flexibility. So for us, again, we're not, that's how we do things, but we're not trying to move the free safety with our eyes in terms of that aspect. It just all depends on the concept.
Hey, jump in here, Danny. I see your mic's off, but Sheriff, I want to ask you a question. When you're coaching your quarterbacks, when are you telling them to move people? What coverages, what routes?
So a quick example is, let's say you're predetermining your where you're going to go, which side you're going to attack based on I'll call him the Mike for now. So let's say, Mike wants to drop straight back or to the field. We'll make a decision to go on one side. Well, can I manipulate him? Is there tools as a quarterback back there that I want him to drop straight back, or I want him to go to the boundary, right? Can I make him go there? Is there something I could do as a quarterback? That's kind of where I'm leaning. Same thing with the free.
I wanted to hear this. If I'm going vertical, 15 yards or more, I need safety awareness. I don't got to look the safety off if my routes are 10 yards or less. Okay. If I'm in man-to-man coverage, who are the free players? The linebackers. What routes can they take away, and can I manipulate them? But I'm not manipulating the DBs anymore because they're in man. And basically, as a quarterback, if you can teach them in zones, that's where you're actually manipulating people. You're setting a high profile, low profile. Maybe you're separating your hands. In man, with the new way of man is they're all playing with their butt to the sideline and they're staring at you. And so you have to, if you're going to take a double move, let's say, you can't stare out there right away, because once you stare out there right away, the safety's coming over the top. So yes, I'm going to manipulate, but I'm still have to influence these guys. I tell in my camps all the time, if the DB ain't looking at you, why the hell am I faking a curl and go? Okay, just hold the safety. So each one of your concepts, talk it out. When you just said about your mic, if it's a mic read and you're not really trying to manipulate him one way or another, if he goes strong, you go weak. If he goes straight back, you go strong. You don't have to worry about that. But there are times when, let's just say I'm running a curl by 2 week, and I see the will linebacker is my problem. He's hit. Okay, can I profile the other way to pull him inside? Because if I look over there, then I'm going to have to maybe get my receiver to wrap around him. And I don't have any flat control. That ain't going to work. So I have to profile and turn my eyes and get the stripe of my helmet away from the will so that he can be a human, see that, and then cover a little bit of the grass that we don't want him to cover. So it's going to be route dependent. It's going to be in zones, and it's going to be your profile of your shoulders, the stripe of your helmet. And it's also going to be essentially zones. And then moving the free safety in Canada, shit, we got 65 yards. I mean, unless you're throwing double nines with the inside slots, I can throw a corner against any safety in this field. Down there, a little bit more, a little bit tougher. But think about your route concepts and why you're trying to move guys and why you're trying to teach them. And if you're just saying, okay, it's a mic read, just make him wrong. Just make him wrong. If he takes away the strong side, go weak side. But if you have concepts where you are going to try to manipulate him in zone and coverages, teach him about profile, shoulder, and basically helmet stripe, and then you'll hopefully have better luck.
Yeah, that was great. No, I'm on the same line as that, as far as I'm all about making the reads. And then when I'm moving people, the only time I'm moving people are when they're looking at me as a quarterback. And what I tell my quarterbacks is it's still part of the read most of the time anyway, when you're trying to move somebody, but just take them where they want to go. If they're leaning one way, make them lean that way a little bit more with your eyes, with your shoulder, with the tools that you have in your tool shed. And a lot of that comes with experience. A lot of that is just being able to practice it. Being out on the field and getting used to the game and getting a feel for it. I used to be offended when people looked at me as a quarterback, because I I wanted them to know that I was lying to them. You know, whatever I was showing them, I wanted them to know that it wasn't the real thing. And so, but that just doesn't come, day 1 or day 20 or day 30. It just takes a lot of reps and a lot of feel for that. But in the meantime, you're making your reads and going through them, and you get a feel for who you can move a little bit, who you can manipulate, and again, it's like Dave said, it's usually only one person during that play, because again, that's 2.5 seconds. So you're not out there moving everybody under the sun. You're finding that one person that's going to affect the play. And if they don't move, you got to have an answer. If they do move, you have to have an answer. So it's not necessarily saying that, hey, I'm trying to move you over here and you don't go. I always thought when I was playing, you know, that the receivers and DBs, they're doing their thing. And my guy, especially in zone coverage, but was the free safety and the middle linebacker. Those were the guys that if they intercepted me, then it was on me. If someone else got me, then, you know, bad throw, whatever it is. But I needed to be able to control those guys, especially when I was throwing in the middle. And those were the guys that I was having my chess match with more than anybody else. Everybody else, they were just kind of pawns, and I would do the things that I had to do out there. But I wanted to make sure I knew that where that free safety was on deeper routes. I wanted to make sure where that middle linebacker was on shorter routes, and you know, and those were the thinkers out there. Those are the best guys. There's a reason that, you know, Mike O'Shea is a head coach, and Steinauer is a head coach, you know, because those guys are thinking the same way out there as players, and they want you to think a certain way, and give you something that maybe they want you to believe something that they're lying to. So you're playing these little games, but again, it just comes with experience to that point. But at the start, I'm like, hey, make your reads. Let me know that you know this play. Let me know that you know what's where you're supposed to go with the ball. And then as you get more comfortable with being out on the field and the situation, and the game slows down for you, then those things become easier to kind of manipulate a guy or to move him where he wants to go to complete a ball.
Yeah, with all the stuff that the guys have said, not much more I can add to it. I mean, I know back in the day, we tried to do the half roll to move the free safety, and then throw back, zip in the seam routes at 18 to 20 yards over the Will's head and stuff like that. And sometimes you get the free safety to move to the field, but there's other times he wouldn't move. I mean, he'd sit right there in the middle. So, you know, it's I think it's what Kahari and Dave and Anthony have said. It's the read concept, you know, and then once you get to that concept, as far as moving a guy, if you got eye lock on them and the stripe in your helmet, those are the little things that can make somebody move. You, especially with the corner hitch to the outside, you can keep the cornerback and the halfback on that corner route as long as you want, because you got that 6-yard hitch route all day if you want to do it. And it's just a matter of how long do I keep them on there before I dish it out to that. And it's just a timing thing that you just grow over experience to get that out there. And you know, and throwing the seam routes too, even with the free safety in the middle, I'd rather him stay right in the middle, because then I can zip it at 18 yards between, right over the linebackers' heads in between, so he can't make a move. So I'd rather have him be like a deer in headlights looking right at me, and then just flip my hips and just let the ball go and get through there once he gets past the halfback. So it's just with experience that you guys will develop it, and they'll see it, and they'll start doing things that they think that they're moving the guy. But I like Orlando Steinauer used to get me all the time. He'd be moving, you know, way before the snap, and then he'd go somewhere else after the snap. So I mean, they're doing just as much dicking around with you as you're doing with them. So it's a matter of, as the guys talked about, confirm what you see. Once you see it, let it rip, and that's the way you got to go for it. Throw a strike. If it's not a strike, get ready for second down. Throw one then, and then keep the drive going.
Perfect, guys. Thanks a lot, man.
Well, guys, that was awesome. A lot of great information was shared tonight. Appreciate all four of you taking the time to sit down with us and answer all those questions. I know I'm going to be getting a ton of requests to try and get you guys back for 2022. Be the QB panel in 2022 again. So hopefully we can get that set up. I know there's a lot of questions we couldn't get to, but I did tell these guys we're going to try and keep it to an hour and a half. So once again, appreciate the four of you jumping on and answering all those for us. Much appreciated, guys.
Thanks, Sharp. Appreciate it,
No
buddy.
problem. Thank you, man.
Anytime, Chuck.
I hope
All
I'm busy
right.
in 2022.
Yeah, we should be in
Damn.
camp right now.
No doubt.
So how
Hey,
we
I
can always
appreciate all you
wind-
guys coming on too. Like, this is what's going to make Canadian football better. And Gibby, Benny, and the CFL coaches put a lot of time into giving back. So props to all you guys for coming on here.
So yeah, basically behind the scenes here, Paul and I were playing earlier, and we're trying to do all this technical stuff. So we were texting, and I said Paul was going to kind of give the initial thank you, and then I was going to follow up. So to sort of tie it all back in, we probably had the most amount of people on the call tonight. So my name's Rick Thompson. I'm in Central Ontario. I'm going to be joining Warren Goldie's CJFL staff, but I was a really, really bad high school player. Other than Coach Dickinson, I got a little bit more hair, but I'm not a very good athlete. Yada yada yada. Right? And I told you earlier, Coach Vespasiani's got a picture here beside me, and I got a signed helmet by him and stuff. So way back in January, I messaged Paul Charbonneau. I said, "Hey, you wanna, can you help me with this?" And I met JP Aslin and Chris Colson and Warren Goldie and Gabe Robinson and Jim Cooper, which then led to Greg Smith coming on, and it's just rolled from there. And now, like I say, the football community in Canada is awesome. And when I said this the Saturday way back in the 3 feet of snow outside, I said to Chris and JP and Paul, I said, I want guys coming together and just chatting, right? Just round table. And Anthony and Danny and Kahari and Dave, right? I pretty much got some sort of memorabilia here of all of you guys behind me in my office. And it's so cool to have you guys in my house tonight and just to chat. So, right. So I really want to say that I appreciate that. And like I say, we, give Paul Charbonneau, he's the really big one here, because he didn't have to respond to my email, and he didn't have to continue to work and do all what he's done with me over all these months. So I really want to thank Paul for reaching out to you guys, and then obviously you guys reaching back to us. And let's continue to do this. Obviously, we're going to get you guys into camp, and we're all going to get coaching here soon. But yeah, definitely we're going to keep this rolling. So definitely give Sharbs a thumbs up in the Facebook, and we'll be back next Wednesday night. I think Sharbs, what do we got? Running back clinic.
Yeah,
Who
so
we got?
next Wednesday, we got Jason Hogan from University of Montreal doing running backs, and Mark Speckman from the stadium that Kahari Jones built at UC Davis. So he'll be up. And then I know guys were asking about quarterback drills and stuff. I'm going to put you on the spot right here, Danny. But Danny Freund is on from the University of North Dakota, was a quarterback at UND when I was there. So I reached out to him to see if he can jump on and do some drills for us and stuff. So we'll be setting up a time to get him on to do that as well.
Nice.
I appreciate everyone jumping on, everyone on YouTube Live. Thanks for jumping on. And the video will be up right away. So if you guys need to go back and study it, it's all yours. And thanks again, guys.
Good stuff. Thank you. Appreciate it. See you guys
Bye,
later.
guys.
Yes, take care.
See you, Craig. Yeah.
All right, guys.
Good night, guys. See
See
you.
you, dudes. See you at camp.
Yes, sir.
See you, Gary. Danny Mac's going to cost me a lot of money in beer.
Danny did. I was going to say, I don't know if you saw Coach Mark.